stuck here. The cops won't bother me.
Oh, what do I like more? The vstrom 650 or the Yamaha Tenere 1200? And that's a pretty good question. You know, a lot of people are going to bash me because they'll say they're not comparable. Kind of like what they said when I compared the NC700 to the CB500 and the CB500 to the vstrom. First of all, they're absolutely comparable because the same people that would get one would get another one just the same. And you don't have to compare it by engine sizes. I don't know who people have been watching, like these magazine reviewers a lot, that they think that that's the only thing that matters in reviews. You could have a very, you know, lightweight bike, small displacement, and be better than a bigger bike. So you can absolutely compare those, and they're very comparable. So when I was thinking about the CB500X and the vstrom, I got a lot of people that were angry that I was saying that the CB500 was not as good. But it wasn't that it wasn't good, it was just they cost about the same as the vstrom 650. So why would you choose to get the CB500? That's the only thing. For me, the bang to the buck is the most important thing. And when it comes to this Tenere versus the vstrom, I love the vstrom, and I think the engine on that thing is better than this one. Honestly, right now I'm going 70 miles to the... Goddamn, I'm going way too fast. So, the vstrom's engine is a little bit better than this one. And the only reason is that the V-twin on that vstrom is one of the most amazing engines you could possibly get by any maker. And this inline 2 is great, but it doesn't sound good. It kind of feels like a Ninja 250 that's like super big, and actually it's got a lot of torque, but it doesn't feel powerful at the same time. But this is the way of the world, is we're making inline 2s because that's the cheapest way of manufacturing engines. The V-twin by Suzuki is an amazing engine. That thing is dead reliable. You know, people toss around bulletproof all the time. Whoa, what are you doing? Whoa, go, 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 go. Wow. Jesus. Yeah, people toss around bulletproof all the time, and I don't know where they get bulletproof because they consider the BMWs bulletproof, and the data suggests that it's not bulletproof at all. But the vstrom is probably the closest thing I've seen to bulletproof. That and the Honda XRs, they've been extremely reliable. The V-twin from the first Africa Twin is amazing. So they do make very good engines, but I think that Suzuki vstrom, they spent a lot of time building. Spent a lot of time building that engine. It almost feels like they built the engine and then they kind of rushed to get the body done. But the frame on the vstrom is actually really good. It's like you get the most amazing bang to the buck on the vstrom. And I don't have the vstrom anymore, I sold it. But that bike is fantastic. One of the downsides is that damn shaft drive, or the chain drive. The lack of shaft drive is one of the things that I think that bike needs. And a lot of people will disagree with me, but there's a reason why the big GS's and the STs, they used to make shaft drives for small bikes. So why is it that they somehow stopped doing it? And the reason is because it's expensive. It's an expensive drive system to make. So That's why I was looking at the Tenere. The Tenere gives you that shaft drive. You know, I got this awesome shaft drive that's very low maintenance. It's not going to fail like the BMWs. It's just a fantastic thing. If you're going to be pouring miles, then a shaft-driven bike is actually a better idea than a shaft drive. But the thing is, a lot of people don't ride enough to even matter. So if that doesn't matter to you, I really think the vstrom is the better bike for you. I think for me, if I do touring, this is a much better bike. It feels actually lighter than the vstrom. It feels more nimble. But I think it might just be the suspension. But even like at low speeds, this feels more nimble. But I know I'm just fooling myself. I actually like to see Barnabas bring the vstrom back so I can swap with them. But another thing that this bike is worse than the vstrom is miles per gallon. I could get to 150 to 160 miles per tank on the vstrom 650. On this, I'm lucky to get 200. And this is a 6-gallon tank, so it's a big one. It's comfortable, it's more comfortable. Arguably, the Tenere is more comfortable than the vstrom. I think if I was given a choice now, I probably would get the vstrom. And it might seem like an odd choice, but the thing is, if you're not riding a lot, and the chain does create better power, the power on this is not very fun. So it's a great bike. You get on it, you feel that torque, but it's not like a kick in the pants sort of torque. And I kind of feel like the way the vstrom made power because of the small engine and the V-twin was a much more exciting sort of engine. And I went from a very good, exciting engine like the XR650, and I hopped onto this one, and it's a very different engine. It's very sedate. A very sedate sort of ride, and the reason is you don't want, if you're going to use a all-day sort of bike, you're going to commute left and right, you actually don't want a super exciting bike like the XR650. That would make your life miserable commuting. That bike makes people miserable while commuting. You always want to go faster. Alright, I'm going to switch it to touring. There we go, I'm in touring mode. So that somehow cuts off a little bit of the power, but it's a very abnormal power. It actually seems like the bike is broken. So I'm gonna kind of stop. There's nobody behind me. First gear, and let's go. Look at this. Oh, is this a cop? No, it's a pickup truck. Whoa, tree. Kind of limits you a little bit, but actually it gives you plenty of power, so I don't know what the hell. I'm gonna switch it to sport. Yeah, sport is fine with me, man. I don't need modes. All of these modes, it just seems to be a little bit of a gimmick, I think. I don't know, it just seems like not really necessary on a motorcycle. It's not like I'm in love with the shaft drive, but I think that if you ride a lot, you want it. You just don't want the BMW shaft drive that fails, or that you have to lube every like 20 miles or whatever those guys have to do. The vstrom and the Tenere actually handle very similarly. I could actually ride the vstrom and the twisties a little bit faster than I can this one. Just because you can kind of feel the weight a little bit more on this when it starts moving. It's kind of nimble, but not as nimble as the vstrom. Even with the dark side tire, I think I'd have an advantage over this one. And another thing is that the bikes have very similar, actually they have almost exactly the same tire size. 19-inch front and 17-inch rear. Yeah, it doesn't sound as cool as the roar of the V-twin, but the power on this and the speed is really deceiving. because I look down, I'm like at 70 miles an hour all the time. Suspension on this is much better than the vstrom, that's for sure. I don't know what Yamaha did on their bikes, but the suspension is much better on this. It's firmer, but also they gave you enough adjustability in the rear that it makes it very easy. The vstrom also has adjustable suspension in the rear, like you can adjust it while riding, and that's a budget bike. I don't know if it's real budget. I think the CB500 feels much more budget than the vstrom. The vstrom was higher quality, but the suspension on it not as good as this one. And of course this one's more powerful, but the V-twin of the vstrom feels more powerful. This one just seems like you're not moving very fast, and then you look down at the speedometer and you're going like 80. Another thing is, if you stand up on the Tenere, I'm standing up right now, the breeze feels so good. And it's actually a very natural position. On the vstrom, I had to hunch down a little bit more in order to get like a stand-up sort of feeling. This one I can stand up. It feels like I'm standing up on a very large bike, which that's normal because it is a very large bike. But on the vstrom, it was a very unnatural position to stand up on it. And a lot of guys decided to raise their handlebars. These handlebars are actually much higher, so it makes this position much more comfortable.
Goodbye, my